Tell me the process of your discovery of calling.
I think the process of discovering my calling started way back when I was in the 8th grade, and just some of the things that the Lord has done in my life to bring me to the place that I am today. My family started tutoring at some Hispanic apartment complexes, and I've been doing that since I was in 8th grade, like I said. And I think through that I started learning that I love students and that I love teaching. Then we started going to Romania the summer after my 9th grade year. And I think there's when I first started having a heart for evangelism and mercy ministry and really seeing teens who needed the Lord. And I started seeing what it meant to share my faith and what it meant to reach out to teens who were in need. It's also where I first started teaching English as a second language there and really enjoyed that. I would teach to younger students, to teenagers, to adults, and then lead Bible studies in English as well. And I just loved working with youth. And so that's kind of where I think it all started for me. But then I went off to college, switched my major 7 times, couldn't decide what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about doing. And so I ended up on communication studies with a writing minor. Sounds like a strange major for someone who's now an English teacher, but I loved it because there was a research component to it. So it was different than just the reading and writing of literature, but I was able to research as well. And the topic that I chose was father-daughter relationships. I started researching the father-daughter relationship because I was mentoring a young girl at the time who had been kicked out of her home. This was the 3rd time, and was really having struggles with her father. And I wanted to know if there was a correlation between the two. And so I started researching that, and it kind of took off, and the Lord took it somewhere I never thought that he would. And I researched it for 2.5 years with my professors and came up with a workshop. And so when I graduated from college, I thought I would travel around the country, around the world, giving my workshop, writing books, that I would be some great speaker. But the Lord seemed to change that path. I got a job here at Perimeter Church working with the family ministry and loved it here, thought that this was exactly where the Lord wanted me. No, it was exactly where the Lord wanted me. But just found that as I was doing that my heart for youth and my heart for teenagers just continued to grow. And I was unable, because of the hours that I worked and the families that I worked with, I was unable to volunteer with the youth group here. And so I started praying about it and thinking about it, but I didn't understand why the Lord wanted me to leave a job that I loved and that seemed perfectly in line with what I had studied for 4 years. And so as I began to pray about it, I spoke with the principals of a couple different schools and said, here's my gifts, my passions, my talents. Do you think I'd be good at teaching? I don't even have a certification yet, but should I pursue that? And so they suggested that I start substitute teaching. So in January, I decided to start substitute teaching at Providence Christian Academy, and I began seminary. I thought that seminary, at least I loved school. I loved studying the Word of God, and if I decided to continue with my workshop, seminary would help me. And if I decided to be a teacher, I'd love to teach the Bible. And so I started seminary and started substitute teaching, and the Lord did so much in that 2nd semester of last year. I found out that I loved teaching. I was assigned to sub for a chemistry class for a week and knew nothing really about chemistry, hardly remembered it, but was thrown into it and had to teach lessons for 5 days. So I took the book home, studied them, came up with lesson plans, and gave a test at the end the teacher wanted me to give. And I found that it was actually something I was good at, and it was not what I had expected. And so I started looking around at some different jobs in some private schools around the area. I talked to the principal at Providence, and he said he wasn't sure if anybody would let me know. Well, we found one at another school. I applied, thought it was going to be a great job. The administration thought I would be perfect for it. And who knows why, but I came out of the interview and said, that went great. The only reason I wouldn't get this job is if God absolutely doesn't want me here. Well, he absolutely didn't want me there because they gave the job to someone else, and I still to this day, I'm not quite sure why they said that I had it and then I didn't. But now I know that it's because I was supposed to be at Providence. After I found out that I wasn't going to get that job, I was disappointed for sure, but I really started praying. And 2 weeks later, the principal at Providence said, Chelsea, we just found out that our 9th grade English teacher is leaving. Would you like to apply for the job? Of course, I said yes. I applied for the job. There were 6 women applying for the job. I was the only one that was not an English major and not a certified teacher. And so I really thought walking out of that interview, well, I know that my passion's here. I know that this is where I'd love to be, but I don't seem to be as qualified as the rest. So Lord, if you want me teaching here, you've got to make this happen. So a week later, I was substitute teaching, got called out of my elementary class to meet the principal on the steps under the flagpole. And I thought, well, he was my varsity tennis coach for 4 years. He probably doesn't want to break it to me over an email. So I walk out feeling kind of hesitant, and he tells me that I got the job. I was absolutely thrilled, couldn't believe that I had gotten it. And so this year I've started teaching English at Providence and have seen the Lord open up so many opportunities because of it. Over the summer I started volunteering with the Watershed Ministry here, and am starting a girls club, and have just found that as I've opened up my life to discovering what I'm passionate about and what I'm good at and what God's made me to do, that I seem to just be energized to do it all the time. I could be with these high school girls 24/7. I'm never tired of them. I just love them. And it's been great to see them coming into my classroom or from the youth group calling me on the phone, meeting for lunch, and just telling me about their life.
What have been some of the emotional barriers that you've had to struggle with?
I think the hardest part about discovering your calling is when you feel like God is switching something and you know that it's going to affect other people. I loved my job here at Perimeter, and I loved the people that I worked with, and it was really hard for me to tell them that God was calling me somewhere else, knowing that I was leaving a ministry that I love. But I found that the Lord provides in such amazing ways. He provided a woman to take my place that I think has done a better job than I could have ever done. And so was it hard to leave my friends and to feel like I was disappointing people? Absolutely. But I really feel like when you're following after the call of God, that He truly saves your reputation and He protects all that is good and all that He wants to accomplish. I think another emotional barrier and spiritual barrier as well is when you start to discover your calling, you find that the road is very narrow and that there aren't many who walk that path. And so I think that when you're really doing the will of God, that oftentimes you can be very lonely, that it seems like you're walking it all alone. But I also find that it's in those times that you draw near to the Lord and that He meets you exactly where you are, and He provides friends and He provides community around you in order to carry those burdens with you.
Okay. I shouldn't have said okay.
No.
What are you still learning about calling?
I think I'm learning that I will never fully discover my calling. I can't say that in 10 years I'll still be teaching English at Providence. So in terms of vocational calling, I'm not sure I'll ever figure it out. But in terms of my passions for life and what the Lord has called me to do, I do love working with teenage girls. And who knows what I'll be doing with that in 10 years from now. But what I'm still learning is that I have to follow after the Lord each day, that He leads and He guides us as to who to talk to and who to invest in. I find that every day there are 50 to 100 girls I could potentially invest in. There's always opportunity, and so it's learning how to prioritize and learning how to take time for myself and not always be doing ministry, and learning what's important and what can be left to the next week.
What would you say to others who are on this journey of discovering their calling?
I would say keep pressing into God. It was a long process for me. As I said, it started in 8th grade when passions in me started developing, but I also have known the Lord since before then. So for those that might be new believers, the process is a long time. And so get to know Jesus, because the more that you get to know Him, the more that you'll discover your callings and your passions in life. But it takes time, so be patient, because mine didn't just come overnight. I didn't just decide one day that I thought maybe Chelsea should be an English teacher. But it came over time of the Lord developing in me a passion to teach English, a passion for youth, a passion for prayer, a passion for discipleship. But that's come over years and years of time and years of just asking the Lord. It was a hard journey. There were a lot of tears, but I think that's normal. And I think that the Lord promises in His Word that He gathers our tears in a bottle, that He remembers those. And I do believe that He took all of that struggle and that it's made it into what it is today.
All right.
Did I spell my name?
Go ahead and do it now.
CHELSEASAPO.
All right. If you don't mind.